Hi, it's Wayne O'Keefe. I'm going fishing tomorrow morning. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prepare a couple of baits. I always have my standard stuff. Because I'm going to fish an estuary, I'm going to fish in the Maribyrnong River, I'll have my spicy chicken, which I use all the time. I'll take some squid, I'll take some prawns. I'm going to take a dough bait as well, and I'll take some worms. Now what I want to do right now is I want to prepare that dough bait so it's perfect for tomorrow. And I'm going to use it a couple of different ways, but the one thing I want to show you is exactly how I make it, because it's very, very simple, but very, very effective. And it might be on the day that the only thing that really gets them in is the dough. You just never can tell. Now, all you need for this is the cheapest white bread you can get. Okay, it's better than the whole grain stuff because the whole grain has got larger pieces, larger seeds and things like that in it. And so when you actually try to mold it, it doesn't mold as well and doesn't stick together as well. Another thing that you want is cat food, a fish-based cat food. The only reason I get cat food is it's so cheap, and yet it is so easy to use. Rather than actually going out and buying, good quality tuna and things like that, the tin stuff, I just buy this in this can, and it works a treat. And then the last thing of all things is a spud, a potato. I've boiled this already, so it's soft. And the reason you use potato with it is the potato goes really nicely chalky in the water. The bread tends to go doughy and stick. This, when it's really well cooked, will go chalky and let off flavors into the water, and the flavors will come from this. So what it's doing is you're using it as the burley itself. So it might be your bait, but it's also a burley for the water, which means that what will happen over time is that it will break down, and then you need to replace it. You need to draw in, wind in your line and put more bait on. But the thing is, if you can cast the same spot all the time, you do the same thing with getting burley out there. Anyway, I'm going to just prepare this. One of the things you do is just before you actually start working with the bread, leave it out for say half an hour. If it's super fresh, it's already quite doughy, you can roll it into tight balls. Because there's a bit of moisture in the cat food or in the fish, you want to dry this out so that you don't have too much moisture there, because we want to make this really sticky and doughy. We want it to last for a long time. So make sure you just leave that out half an hour, just so that it takes the edge off the moisture. Some of the moisture will leave it. Turn it over a couple of times, and then it's ready to go. So all you do with this stuff is just in pieces, just break it up, okay? And what I tend to do is I have just a mixing bowl like this, a very old one. This is I use with my tackle, so I mix everything in it. And I'm mixing this in the kitchen. So what I'm doing is I've put down a towel as well on the kitchen island, so that I can just pick everything up, especially if I spill anything, pick everything up in that towel, take it outside and shake it off. And then I don't have to clean up anything in the kitchen. Yahoo! So all you're doing with this is you're breaking it up into small pieces, okay? And you do that, it depends on how much you want to use. So what I tend to do is have about 8 or 9 slices, because what I'll do is with some of that, I'll actually freeze that. So you make that up, keep breaking it up, okay? And then once you've got that together, then you can start to add the cat food. Now I'm going to just add some of the cat food. So just take that off. And the good thing is, it's a solid ball of meat or fish, not much moisture. And that's what you want, because just a little tiny bit of moisture is the thing that really binds this hard together. Too much water or too much moisture and it gets sloppy. And boy, does that smell of fish. Now I've cut the top and just used about half a tin of this tuna. I always reserve a bit to work out if I need more or less as I'm going through it. I've used about 9 slices of bread with that. And so at the moment, it's looking like this absolute delicacy right here as I've added it in. Now the next thing I will do is add in the potato. And the potato should be, you don't have to remove the skin or anything like that, that's fine. And you're just taking pieces off and dropping them in, because it's really soft. Ooh. And it breaks up very, very easily. And this, as I said, is just adding that cloudiness, that powdery piece to the whole of the dough, which is sifting off and giving you, almost looks like a dust trail in the water, but it doesn't go off that powder yet. It breaks up and sinks out and moves around, especially as the water is moving. So now you've got everything there that you need. Beautiful. Oh, smells good too. Now the next thing I'm going to do is the part that gets a little bit disgusting at times, but really it's quite easy, is to mix all of this. I usually mix it with my hands. It probably would be better if you had a meat mincer to actually force this through a meat mincer, and it would actually help to combine it all then, and then you could mix it afterwards. But I'm going to just use my hands to do it, and all I'll do is I'll keep churning and churning until I feel that I've got a good mix. All the contents, all the ingredients have mixed through, and then it'll be into a sticky ball, and that will be my bait and my burley. So I'll do that next. Now, one of the things you can do if you don't want to get all icky with these contents is to use these. No, I'm not a surgeon. What I'm going to do is use these to keep my hands clean, because with all of this, I've got a no mess method. I've basically put all those ingredients into this bowl that I use for my fishing stuff and my fishing tackle and making burley and everything else. And I've got the towel here that collects everything that drops. I don't actually have to clean up everything, I just have to shake it off outside. When I finish with this bowl, I just go out and put it on the back lawn, hose it down, and it rinses out everything that I haven't collected for my bait. It also attracts every cat in the neighbourhood, so they have a feast after doing this, but I don't really leave that much in there. But what I will do, because I've been renovating my house and I've been using solvents and things, I've got a big supply of these. So what I'm going to do is just start mixing with this. So it's just a matter of mixing through, and what will happen is the moisture in the fish will collect on the bread and make it soft. And so then it molds together very, very well. So all I'm doing is just mincing it up and keeping going until I get the right consistency. I'll show you that in a second. So after all of that molding and kneading and everything, I've ended up with 3 of these. I make them slightly flat like that so that they fit in a Ziploc bag, lie flat in the fridge. I'll put this one into the fridge for fishing tomorrow, and I'll put the others into the freezer. I want to use them later on. And all you do is, I mean, they will freeze, but there's not a lot of moisture in there. So you take it out the night before, you want to use it, and then it's ready to go the next day. Sometimes you might just put a bit of a paper towel over it before you use it, just to draw off some of that moisture. But what will happen is it will be good to use in a couple of sessions. So I've got everything there I need. And you can experiment with different ingredients, but this type of dough bait works very, very well on a lot of saltwater species, but also freshwater species as well. So it's amazing what the type of fish you can catch with it. And any of those carp anglers out there that really, really like to get into the big fish, this stuff is dynamite for them. So look, it's have a shot at it. Pretty simple to do. You can do it at a much smaller scale than I do. Just test it out. And look, if you find that adding the cat food to it, you add too much cat food, just basically add more white bread to it. Take the crusts off the white bread and just pull it into smaller pieces and add that, and you'll find that it starts to stiffen up with that. And the potato, of course, as I said, just basically allows you to have something that has a very, very powdery consistency to it, and that drops off and helps you get that smell and everything out into the water. So have a shot, and I'd love to hear how you've gone, if you've made one, if you've used it before, and any other different ingredients you've used, because there's a million things you can do with this stuff, and it is surprising what you can catch. I started experimenting with this recipe after seeing some of the dough baits and that made in the UK and Europe and parts of Asia, but in particular in Japan, where there's fishing competitions where float fishermen come in these very large pools, and what they do is they fish for hera. It's a carp-like fish, and they have two different types of bait and attractant. So what they do is they make up their bait, which is made largely out of potato with different flavourings on it. And then they have something that breaks down fairly quickly, which is releasing smells and scents into the water column so the fish come around. And then the hook has the next bait on it, which is a dough bait, which is stiffer, which lasts a bit longer. But they only last for, the ones that they make are very soft, and they only last really for a couple of minutes. They actually have a float in the water, and it's got all of these little markers on it. And so what happens is when they cast in, the full weight of the bait will pull that float down in the water, and then as it dissolves, the float starts to come up in the water until it gets to the point, the final marker, and by that time they know that the bait is completely gone. Anyway, interesting, but for me and for us, we want something that's stiffer than that, holds on the bottom, and this recipe does it.